Good evening. Okay, looking good over there on Periscope. See how we looking here on YouTube. Leah, Jackie, good evening everyone. Good, and we're live now on YouTube. Awesome stuff this technology is, huh? Rhonda West, Crystal Adgers, welcome. I see J.D. Wilson, welcome. Periscope. How we doing? How are we doing? Let's see if I could change some of these around. Put this one there. Leah, Jackie, good evening everyone. Good. We're live 30 days at YouTube. Awesome stuff this technology is, huh? Rhonda West, Crystal Adgers, welcome. I see J.D. Wilson, welcome. How we doing? How are we doing? Come on in. We're working it out today. Yes, we are. I like my other app where I'm able to give you all the nice intro, you know, all official and all that. But I think that app might have been part of the problem why I could not get that clear connection in last time, so I didn't want to take that chance. We're working it out today. Yes, we are. Okay. I like my other app where I'm able to give you all the nice intro, you know, all official and all that. But I think that app might have been part of the problem why I could not get that clear connection in last time, so I didn't want to take that chance. My husband's in there yelling at Alexa. All right. It's about 7 after. We're going to get started a little earlier today. Good evening, Denise Williams, Natasha. I see you. I see a lot of our usuals. That's a blessing to see. And looks like everything's up and running, so I'm not going to worry about this. All right. On Periscope? Yes. All right, so it looks like we're good on Periscope. We are good on YouTube. And we are good on Facebook. So if you want to take a moment to go ahead and share on your page. I don't know if y'all looked out y'all window yet, but it is snowing. It is snowing. It has started. I hope y'all was ready for this. I'm as ready can be. I mean, we're in New England. I don't know why we talk about weather so much. I talked to someone from the islands one time, and they said that y'all talk about the weather too much. I thought that was funny. Like we have big problems, right? So I laughed at that. But we do tend to talk about the weather a little bit too much in New England. But, you know, what you gonna do? I'm as ready can be. I mean, we're in New England. I don't know why we talk about weather so much. I talked to someone from the islands one time, and they said that... All right. Hi, Manuel Davis, Elitza, Karen Jamison. A few of y'all snuck in on me. Leona, Angela Copeland. Good evening, Robin Daniels, Carla Townsend. I see y'all. Welcome. Let me just clear something up here. Giving me an echo. Turn that off. All right. All right. Hi, Manuel Davis, Lisa, Karen Jameson. A few y'all snuck in on me. Leona, Angela Copeland. Good evening, Robin Daniels, Carla Townsend. I see y'all. Welcome. Up here. Give me an echo. Turn that off. All right. Let's get this show moving. Y'all let me know if there's any problems. How we doing, Lady Latanya? How we doing, Misha? I don't know if they don't show me who my other 16 are, but it's good to see y'all out here. Hopefully the volume is good, the sound is good, and we can jump in and get going. We can jump on in and get going. Are y'all excited for this? I know I am. Keep this show moving. Let me know if there's any problems. How we doing, Lady Latanya? How we doing, Nisha? I don't know. They don't show me who my other 16 are. But it's good to see y'all out here. Hey, Biggs, no problems there. Good. I'm good. Have y'all looked out and seen that the snow has started? I can't see you or hear you, Apostle. That's going to be on your side, Karen, because everything else is good. Sound and volume are great. All right, good. Karen, you may have to turn yours off and restart again. All right, everyone's saying good evening. Let's go. We'll start by drawing a name. I don't have any helpers tonight. My sweetheart granddaughter is on her wonderful youth retreat, and she called me a few minutes ago, and she's having her little breakthrough with being away from her Mima. So she calls me and she said, I miss you. So we had to, have a moment to get ourselves together, because I didn't even realize, I guess, myself and all my busyness, how much time I actually spend with her. So I actually miss her too. So it's good to be able to, make some changes. All right, let's see if I grab someone's name that's a little different here. Snow is coming down here too. Yep. No problems. Let's go. All right. Ha! Shaminiak Newman. You are the winner tonight. I think I have probably one more night of books too. Maybe two. It's the 19th. It's 1/19/19. What an interesting day. Congratulations, dear. If you're on here watching, go ahead and just say, hey, she's saying, yay, I won. And we'll go ahead and begin. Let me know if you want the reading, the companion, or a journal. It is all yours. Snowing in Mass. Go ahead. Come on, y'all. Let's wish her well. She's a part of the Apostles' House, and she's online following So Detox. She wants everything that her apostle has been packaged by the Holy Spirit to go ahead and give out. Biggs, let me know. Is Anna going to take yours, or inbox me a mailing address so I can get it out to you, please, ASAP. I want to get it out to you by tomorrow on our way out. All right, I bring you greetings. Thank you for those who are on tonight. We are coming from Dr. Phil's book. We have different authors every year. I try to use it as a template for teaching because, most times when I teach, people want something that's kind of hard copy and available to them. I'm trying to figure out what his camera is. Okay, good. This way. Kind of hard copy, and so I give you this book to go by, and we've been pretty much on the book. This was different for me. I have to admit, it was a little hard for me to actually stick to the book. But yesterday someone said to me, you went off on a tangent, and boy, that was good. That was fire. It was revolutionary. And y'all know the part about you cheering me on, you celebrating my success gets you off the hook from yours. And it's not so much success that it gets you off the hook from, but it gets you off the hook from the accountability, the responsibility, the everything that comes with it. The attacks, the love, the hate, everything that comes along with it. So hopefully we all received that yesterday and we moved on. We also have our journals. So, you should pick your journal when you win. I do have a wonderful, blessed spiritual daughter of mine who has started the, engraving and bowsing business. And she's getting these all ready for So Detox for March 2nd. And she's going to have So Detox, So RX on them. So if you're interested, you can put your orders in early. I'll get it listed up on the website by the end of this weekend and figure out what it's going to cost us to do all that so that we can stay afloat here. All right, welcome. Good to see you all on tonight. Snowy night in New England. Here we go, huh? So where we are tonight, we are on tonight. 7 critical choices. This was so deep. Last night, I know I say this every night, but this one is really hitting me. I had a couple of people inbox me and said, I think we may be taking this lesson lightly because maybe we're referencing material of Dr. Phil's. So we're not taking it as serious, maybe a celebrity or someone. So we're kind of watering down the work and the effects of this lesson, as compared to prior years where we were dealing with spirit of rejection and healing and demonic deliverance from, spirits and principalities. So we took it really serious and we was in the supernatural realm. But perhaps this year we're taking it a little lighter because it doesn't seem to be so spiritually deep. But the fact is, these two people said, one female, one male, said that this for them has been deeper than the prior 2 years, because the prior 2 years, though it was spiritually spoken about, talked about, this year we're not so much mentioning spiritual things, but we're doing such a deep work in the realm of the spirit. So it's hard hitting. I see a word up here. Someone says, not me. This is serious for me. It's deep for me, right? So it has been valued that this has been very deep for us. And I've said this several times. We cannot just do this type of work and leave people open. So we have to make sure that in doing the homework, we're closing doors and the recesses of our soul that has been opened up to such vulnerability, so much, the ghosts where they hide in the shadows. And it's important that we do the homework so we can close and finish the business of this that we had started, because we're truthfully not just on here talking. We're on here learning, and you all are participating. I got a wonderful email today. I don't know if I'm going to be able to open it up right now because I'm already in here. But it wasn't really, I don't think she really meant it as an email, to be read to the viewers. But I believe she was really sincerely asking me a question. But the question was very good, because I don't know who else may be going through any of this. And it's good to be able to share with other people, so you don't think, we always tend to think we're crazy when we're experiencing something, and we tend to think that no one else in the world has experienced it. Till you start talking to people, and then you find out, oh my God, we'll say something like, I'm not crazy. Nope, you're absolutely not crazy. And we should never think that we are, because this world is big enough for us to understand that we are not the only one going through in any of these situations. Here's this heavy inbox, and all this stuff is dropping in. Now it wants 1,000 things from me. Let's see. I would really love to be able to read, but let's see if it's coming up or not. If not, we've got to move on. We've got to move on. Let's get up. 12:07 p.m. Somewhere around here, I would say her post was. Was it here from the website? No, maybe not. Well, I'm just going to move on anyway, but it was worth reading. But what she was asking was that she was going through some changes, and she wanted to know if that was a part of this process. Was it a normal part of the process? Because she said she was basically experiencing some physiological changes, and I explained to her that that definitely is proof that fear is there, and that you're actually coming up against the fear. So you should not stop now. You should continue to do the work, but you should find a place to talk and to be open about it and get some truth on it, because it is the truth that's going to set us free. Let me see if this is it or not. I hate when these computers don't work the way we need them to. Okay. Okay, yes, here it is. Let me read this quickly to us. Here's our testimony, our email for tonight. I absolutely did prepare us with the last 2 years of training for this year's work. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Absolutely. All right. This is what this young lady shared. She says, hello. These past days have been a lot. I have not been able to get the companion yet, but I have been thinking, digging, and trying so hard to stay the course. It's been hard starting with the 5 pivotal people, as well as the defining moments and critical choices. Physically and mentally, I have felt sick. I know this may be how it's supposed to be, because I am working on my authentic self and the enemy is busy. The process of writing these things down has been a slow process for me. Is this normal? Or can this be the fear that has been in me since a little girl? I'm going to continue and push through, but I was wondering if the process of dealing with these three concepts is normal. I thank you for all you are doing and greatly appreciate it. And my response to her was, thank you for writing us, of course. Yes, this is the physiological response to fear. Stay the course, pursue through it. That's how we win. I'm here with you, committed to the journey that we're on. Stay open to conversation, be willing to share, and always use this platform of being able to email us here at the office so that you can always get the truth that is ultimately going to set you free. Because remember, we talked about in chapters 1 and 2 that even though this is psychological work, this is soul work, it has physiological changes. So the physical body is going to go through changes. And when you're coming up against fear and fighting fears and secrets that have been inside for such a long time, your body's going to go through changes. And I was watching a show earlier, and the guy was talking about how when people begin to dig into the deepness of their past, he described it in a sense the way that I have, that it's like your gas tank. But in the bottom of your gas tank is where you have all the grudge, all the mess, and all the foul stuff that you don't want running through your system. So instead of ignoring that and keep putting in fresh gas, we've decided to let the gas run a little low and begin to deal with the gunk that has piled up in our tank, our soul, per to say. So that's what we're doing. Your body's going to go through changes. I was speaking with Pastor Kareem in our ministry today, and I was sharing with him how I'm going to go back and pursue swimming, because I know in my mind that I can swim. I know it. I can see it. I can feel it. And I knew from the beginning that I was going to be a great swimmer. And I let that moment be taken from me because of fear. And when I signed up for swimming lessons a few years back, I told the instructor I can swim perfectly well underwater. But when I have to go up and down, it reminds me of the incident that happened. So I know that it's the fear that I have to get over, not so much of the swimming. I don't want to say techniques, but the posture for swimming is not really what I'm worrying about. It's not that I cannot swim. It's the fear that I have to begin to conquer this fear. So I'm going to go back at it again, because now that I am really facing it, that this situation is a fear situation and not a challenging disability or anything that's preventing me from actually being able to do this. It's fear. So I'm going to conquer those fears. Now, the other fear that I have is of height. I don't know how I'm going to do with that one, but we will see. I would just want to acknowledge YouTube viewers that are on tonight. I see Okita's on there. I see Elia is on there. I want to say hello to you all. And also our Periscope viewers, welcome. Thank you for the beautiful hearts that you all are sending up right now. And of course, our faithful Facebook viewers who are right here in my face on camera A. All right, let's get into this lesson. Remember, if you want to share anything with me, successes, some challenges, any questions that you have, please inbox us at info@SuzanneMHoward.com, info@SuzanneMHoward.com. So here we go. We're still on chapter 5, which begins, let's see if, yes, I do have it on the right chapter. We're in chapter 5, and this one begins with 7 critical choices. Remember our jingle? Let's go. 10 defining moments, 7 critical choices, 5 pivotal people, and an audience of 1. My husband keeps trying to make us go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But maybe when I write the book, we'll fill in from this with 7. We'll have a 6. We'll have a 4. We'll have a 3. We'll have a 2, and we'll have a 1. But right now, with Dr. Phil's material, we're working with 10, 7, and 5. So maybe when we write the book, we'll write it in between. Wouldn't it be wonderful if y'all all engaged me in a chapter and gave me something and we wrote this book together? Something to think about, because many of y'all have been important to my life and to this birthing of Soul Detox, Soul RX. All right, so 7 critical choices is where we are, and we opened up with last night. Your life demands choices. Choosing is a fact of life that you cannot escape. You cannot escape it. So where we are tonight, let me take you up a few pages, And we are going to be on page, start from 129. It is time to identify the various crossroads that you have encountered in your life. What choices you made at each, why you made the particular choice you did, and what you think have been the results for your life. What alternatives did you not choose, and what would have been the results of those alternatives? That's a whole lot of places you don't want to go. Finally, you need to recognize and distinguish choices you made for yourself versus those that you chose to have made for you. I feel like I need to read that paragraph over. I'll just read this last line. Finally, you need to recognize and distinguish choices you made for yourself versus those that you chose to have made for you. In approaching this task, and so that we can work this information later, it may be useful for you to consider some of the whys behind your choices. What factors came into play when you were faced with a choice? When you start looking for your 7 most critical choices, keep in mind that you, like all people, have various motivations or needs that drive each and every one of your choices. In fact, you are driven by a hierarchy of needs, such that unless and until a more basic need is met, you cannot and will not be motivated by the next level of need. So now we're going to discuss the list of hierarchy of needs. Some of the reasons I wrote for my own little note on 7 critical choices. These are motivating factors is what I like to call them. Motivating factors. Motivating factors that motivated you to make the choices that you made. And we start out with survival, security, self-esteem, love, self-expression, intellectual fulfillment, and spiritual fulfillment. These are motivating factors as to why you may have chosen some of the things you chose and ignored some of the things you could have chosen. Greetings to you, Doctor. Motivating factors, the things behind the scenes that could have coerced you or been a part in motivating you towards the 7 critical choices that you have made in your life. Again, survival, security, self-esteem, love, self-expression, intellectual fulfillment, and or spiritual fulfillment. Notice that the first among them is the need for your very survival. Life itself must be protected before you will be motivated by any other needs such as security, self-esteem, or love. This is important in understanding why you chose some of the things you chose and ignore some of the things you could have chosen. Let's examine for a moment each need or motivator behind some of our choices. Why my little screen popping a little crazy right now? So we're going to go through it. We're going to examine each need or motivating factor. And the first one is survival. What does a choice look like that's been motivated by your need to survive? What does survival look like, or what does it show up as? More importantly, how does survival show up in our life when an important choice needs to be made? All right? Regardless of whatever else was or is going on in your life, your most critical need is and always has been survival. Number 1 is survival. It is the most basic of all instincts, and it is with this very powerful force that you began your presence on this earth. Don't poo-poo this one. It is a big deal. A big deal because you start making choices and therefore getting shaped by the results of those choices from a very early age. When we are first born, you were, of course, totally vulnerable. A community, in this case, probably a family, hopefully valued you, protected you, and cared for you, but at a price. The price was that you had to conform to their values, patterns, and demands of that community, of that family, to ensure that you would be embraced by them. Isn't that fact? You believe in what they believe. And you have people that don't go to church, never believed in church, but they're Catholic. And people were Catholic by birth. When they were born into a family, if the family was Catholic, everybody was Catholic. There was none of this going your own way stuff. The price was that you had to conform to all of that, to the community, to ensure that you would be embraced by them. You had to eat the way they did, behave the way they did, learn to speak the language, and accept and adapt to the environment. Early on, most choices were, of course, made for you. Even once you were old enough to begin making conscious decisions, choosing not to follow the rules of the community could have made you the outsider, the enemy. It could have left you vulnerable and subject to punishment. Again, this is a big deal. It suggests that you may have been conditioned very early on to make choices that were primarily motivated by fear. Case in point, in the author's case, his father was a doctor, and he had already made plans for his life that he would be a doctor. Sounds like something most of us would wholeheartedly love, to have a parent have a legacy or a plan for our life and money put aside so that this plan could come to play. But the times that it becomes a problem is when it is not the passion that God has given you to be. He may have called dad to be a pastor, or dad to be a preacher, or dad to be a medical doctor, but not always is that what you need to be. Your mom was a teacher. Does that mean that you are supposed to be a teacher? And it's easy to fall into it. And I just consider it an honor and awe to walk in the steps of your mom and dad. But how about when there's 3 or 4 siblings? How do you know if there's one that's a little different? How do you know if there's one that's called to do something different in God? Maybe not as great, or maybe even greater. What do you do when you're walking in the shoes or the shadows of your parents, and what has been set aside for you to do is not the place you have passion? Well, the author, Dr. Phil, found himself going along with it to get along with it, and found himself to be very rich, successful, but yet miserable. And that's deep. It's very deep, because believe it or not, God does want you happy, and he does want you to have passion and purpose in your life. And I really commend the author, because I just could not think that I would probably even be able to hear that there's something else I should be doing if I have reached success. Because most of us, especially in 2018, relate passion and purpose to success. We relate passion and purpose to success. But we wonder, even though we're successful, how come there's something still not right about what it is that I do not wake up desiring to do this? I do not go to bed at night with my mind full of ideas and embracing a think tank of opportunities to advance this. I'm doing great. I'm successful in it. But is this really what I was put on this earth to do? Think about how that early experience and the need to have the approval of others in order to peacefully survive may have carried over into the other areas and choices of your adult life. It may well be that you learn to make choices based on whether or not the decision and associated action would please others, not to please you, but to please others. If that tendency began as a motivation, powerful as your very survival, just think how deeply ingrained it may well have become. A fear of displeasing others, rather than a philosophy of questioning and requiring justification for how things are, can be a huge life choice that you may not even be aware of as having. That's how ingrained it is. You may well have been conditioned to give your power away and make your own individual wants and needs secondary in determining the choices you would make, because you sensed or convinced yourself that conforming was essential to your very survival. There's the word survival. Let me read it again. You may well have been conditioned to give your power away and make your own individual wants and needs secondary in determining the choices you would make or would have made because you sensed or convinced yourself that conforming was essential to your very survival. Karen Jameson says, I have been trying to please my mom all my life. Someone else is dropping the mic. Someone else is saying this is so true. Let me continue. You may well have convinced yourself that you would jeopardize your job and income, and therefore your ability to maintain food and shelter if you didn't stay quiet and compliant. Obviously, powerful motivators, if in fact that is what you believe. If you have gotten so distorted in your thinking as to believe, for example, that you just couldn't go on living without the presence of your spouse, then the survival need would motivate you to do or tolerate amazing, irrational things in order to survive. Let me read it again. If you have gotten so distorted in your thinking as to believe, for example, that you just couldn't go on living without the presence of your spouse, then the survival need would motivate you to do or tolerate amazingly irrational things in order to survive. There's our word again. The fact that the threat to your actual survival is of no consequence, because again, if you believe it, then that is for you a reality. That you would actually tolerate amazingly irrational things, because to you it has become a motivating factor of survival. You see how powerful our mind is, even when we're wrong? Moreover, if this is your belief, no other need will be addressed, because as long as you believe your very survival is threatened, that need will dominate and your choices will show it. That is so deep for me right now, because there's at least 6 people that I'm counseling right now and coaching right now, and this is major. The fact that the threat to your actual survival is not an objectively genuine threat is of no consequence, because again, if you believe it, then that for you is a reality. Because if you have gotten so distorted in your thinking as to believe, for example, that you just couldn't go on living without the presence of your spouse, then the survival need would motivate you to do or tolerate amazingly irrational things in order to survive. Moreover, if this is your belief, no other need will be addressed. No other need like security, self-esteem, love, self-expression, intellectual fulfillment, spiritual fulfillment. No other need will be addressed, because as long as you believe your very survival is threatened without that spouse, that need will dominate and your choices will show it. That's a big one. We need to really work that one out at a later date. I'll star it and I'll make sure we talk about it down the line in this year. Security, motivating factor number 2 behind the 7 most critical choices you've made in your life thus far. Security. Once your survival needs are satisfied, the next level of need that can motivate your choices is the need to find some basis for emotional security. After survival, the next level of need that can motivate your choices is the need to find some basis for emotional security. In addition to your physical security, the number 1 emotional need for all people is the need for acceptance and belonging. My God, I love this chapter too. The emotional satisfaction that comes from external approval from feeling that you are a part of a couple, an organization, or peer group. Again, this is a huge influence on what you choose for yourself. For example, if this need is predominant and you feel that true individual expression might bring criticism or even rejection, you might very well choose conformity rather than expression. You may very well have developed a pattern of ignoring your own thoughts and feelings instead of opting to substitute someone else's judgment for your own, because that met your need for emotional security. I just don't even know what else to say right here. It almost feels like we just need to sit on this right here, because this is just deep, deep, deep. Did y'all get it? Are you getting it? For emotional and even physical security, you will put your own expression, your own gifts, your own callings, your own talent on the shelf, because your motivating factor in why you are getting ready to make this choice or have made that choice is because you may very well have developed a pattern of ignoring your own thoughts and feelings, instead opting to substitute someone else's judgment for your own, because that choice will meet your need for emotional security. Yeah, I'm dropping the mic too. This is just really putting me into mind with a lot of organizations, why we're getting involved in some, why I felt I need to get out of others, because of emotional or physical securities, or, what's the thing? Not wanting to not feel like you're conforming, not wanting to look as a rebel, or not looking as if, you're the troubled one, or the ignorant one, or the disobedient one. But also at the same time, balancing the scales to figure out, am I involved with this just because of an emotional or physical security or the sense to belong? This is good. That behavior is so far-fetched if you think about it. Michelle, I see you. That feeling, that behavior is so far-fetched because if you think about it, politicians do it every single day. I don't think a darn one of them has ever had an original thought. Instead, it's what do they want to hear. Tell them what they want to hear, or they might reject me at the next election. Your personal choice to do the very same thing with the decisions in your life may have been based on a similar logic. Many of your choices may have been made out of a concern for what other people might think, in the hope that by complying with what you think they want, you will win their approval and acceptance. Problem is, you and what you want or need gets ignored as a motivator in your decision making. I don't know. I don't think I want to get through this chapter tonight at all. I think I want to sit on this for a couple more days. These need to be worked out. These need to be, this is the fish that needs to be put on the table, and after it's cleaned and gutted and cooked, we've got to find the meat in between the bones on this thing. And not that this is bones, but I mean, it needs to be picked carefully apart so that not a piece of the meat is missed. Because if you run this through a survey, if you run this through an assessment of yourself, where are you already doing the survival motivating factor and the security motivating factor in your life? People pleasing and missing out. And I found this to be so true, as sad as it may be. I've found that if people are more often willing to please man than please God. And it's like, well, if you don't believe this was you, why were you doing it? Well, I didn't want to let you down, Apostle. Oh, what about God? If he gave you that gift, how are you going to shut the gift off to do this over here that I've given you to do? That it's really a temporary thing, but you're making a whole life and calling and ministry out of it because you'd rather believe in your mind that you're pleasing me when you don't get that I'm pleased when God is pleased. Everywhere, doing it everywhere is what I'm seeing as a Facebook writer. Someone else saying, amen. Search the depths of my soul, Jesus. Such a true statement I see coming back on Periscope. Let me see if our YouTube's going berserk over here. Very good. This is so deep. Getting it. I have conformed in some areas and rebelled in some. Yeah, because it's passive aggressive now. So for the places that you have conformed that you didn't want to, it doesn't mean you should not have, but you didn't have the truth in order to do it. Then the passive aggressive kicks in because you're going to make up for that frustration somewhere else. Okay, somebody's just saying hello on here. But I see you out there. I'm trying to pay attention to a lot of your comments as we go along. There's a young lady that I counsel, and she struggles with homosexuality and, perversion thoughts and all that. And I asked her, trying to figure out where her mind is first on this. Well, how do you know you're not gay? Because God doesn't make anybody gay, and God makes people on the earth. Okay, well, what does God feel about homosexuality? Well, he doesn't like it. Oh, well, yeah, well, what does he say about it? Well, I don't know. I just know what the church says. Okay, you're struggling with something, but you can't tell me how God feels about it. You want to please God, but you have no idea how God feels about it. So my interpretation is you really want to please man. You want acceptance with man, and you know that you cannot walk this out in the Christian faith. So how do you, because she's very gifted, very talented, very powerful, very anointed, how do I get promoted in the things of God when I have this thing over here that God is really doesn't like? I think, I don't know, I'm not really sure, but I know what the church says about it. I know how the church handles me. So then I got to figure out, how to fake it until I can get delivered from it. And then I find out that God may not ever deliver me from it. So what do I do with it then? I'll leave the church and I'll leave God, or I become the biggest fake in the wild, wild west. So what I decided to do with her, I said, well, what our training is going to be, we're going to go through and we're going to find every scripture in the Bible regarding homosexuality, and we're going to read it, we're going to study, we're going to pray, and we're going to begin to talk. And we're going to find out what are some of your defining moments in your life. How did this open up in your life? Where did this come from? Let's find out. Because if there's really something that you do not want to do or do not want to be, but as Apostle Paul said, you find yourself doing the very thing that you know you ought not to do, you've got to find out God's word on it. You cannot just say, I want to please the church. I want to please the pastors. I know I'm called to preach, but I can't preach being a homosexual. So I don't want to be a homosexual anymore. So help me out on this thing. Coach me and mentor me. Well, what is God's word on it? If we're going to stand on it being wrong because of God or not pleasing to God, at least, then let's find out what he says about it. And when you do not find out what God says about any issue you're dealing with, you end up man-pleasing instead of God-pleasing. Because God's word speaks on everything we deal with, right? So how are you going to get delivered from something if you don't even know how God feels about it? It is the truth that sets you free, not the pleasing of my leader, not the acceptance of the church, because you can find some church that's going to accept anything you do, anything. So we have to stop being conditioned to please man and to realize that when we please God, we will please man, at least the right man. And I mean man, not as a gender, but as a spirit, man, woman, whatever. Y'all with me? Many of your choices may have been made out of concern for what other people might think, in the hope that by complying with what you think they want, you will win their approval and acceptance. Problem is, you and what you want or need gets ignored as a motivator in your decision making. We've got some homework to do. All right, can I move on? I know we're probably moving way too fast for this chunky stuff, but we're going to move on. Motivating factor number 3 when dealing with our 7 critical choices. Motivating factor number 3, I have self-esteem, but this one is love. Let me make sure. Security. Yep, the next one is love. So I've got it wrong on my list. Love. And these are in chronological order for a reason. We'll talk about that shortly. Love. Studies of newborn babies show that unless we receive love, our survival is in jeopardy. From the first days of our lives, as we grow up, if we are not convinced that we have it, if we are not convinced that we are loved, we will go through life trying to find it. There is a certain way in which we need to be touched, held, and regarded behaviorally and emotionally. If we feel deprived, even from an early age, and before we have the vocabulary to describe it, we will be driven in our lives to find love. That drive can be so powerful, so addicting, and so dominating as to dominate our thinking and motivations, and therefore our choices throughout life. Some of your most critical choices in life may have resulted from your need for, your search for, a love that, whether real or imagined, you felt was elusive. We're getting deeper and deeper and deeper. He's really jacking us up. I wonder why nobody else ever told me about this great book here. Did y'all hear that? Let me see what the folks saying online here, because we started on time today. Let me see. What are we saying out here? Periscope is quiet. YouTube is getting it in. I have, from Jesus, Jesus, my Lord, Jesus, Jesus. They're just having a little Tarian service over there, so we'll just keep going over here. I'm on the replay already. Wow. If we don't feel love, we seek it out all of our life, all throughout our life. From the first days of our lives, if we do not know that we are loved as we grow up, if we are not convinced, did you hear me? It doesn't mean you were not loved. Remember, rejection perceived is rejection received. So if you are not convinced that you were loved growing up, you will go through life trying to find it. Think about some of your choices, some of the people you dated, some of the people you even gave the time of day for, some of the boundaries and vows that you made to yourself, some of the I would never do this, he would have to have that, and we would have to be able to do this. All of these things can be reduced and boundaries can be blurred if you have a sense of being unloved in your early developmental years. You will make choices out of a motivating factor, well, at least I'm being loved. He doesn't come home. He's not there. He's not supportive of you. He's always speaking against you. He's always speaking to people around you. If you don't feel loved, you're going to be motivated to stay with bad situations or even engage in bad or poor relationships, decisions, because you have this internal need to be loved, and you have been convinced, probably by yourself, or maybe there's some facts, that you were never loved. Let me read this one again, because I don't want us to overthrow this. Listen, studies of newborn babies show that unless we receive love, come on, write that down, receive love, our survival is in jeopardy. And what was our first motivating factor? Survival. So you see how survival, security, and love all work together? Our survival is in jeopardy from the first days of our lives. As we grow up, if we are not convinced that we have it, you should write down under that one, am I convinced that I was loved? Because you may have a very loving family, but maybe there was 12 of you, like in my house. You may have had a very loving family, but you had a mom that didn't hug, like in my house. So though they loved you, you may not have been convinced that you were loved. You may not have received it in the way that you needed it. Even though they loved you, you know, in the older days, they would tell you, you don't think I love you. I put food on the table. I work 2 and 3 jobs. You got clothes on your back. I'm here with you and your mother. What do you mean I don't love you? They equated love to material things. So there could be a part in you that just is really not convinced you're not loved. And this is why. Because as we grow up, if we are not convinced that we have it, we will go through life trying to find it. There is a certain way in which we need to be touched, held, and regarded behaviorally and emotionally. Thus, I'm sure is why Dr. Forget his name came up with the 5 love languages. He came up with 5 love languages because I'm sure he studied that if we are not convinced, and you're not convinced if you give me words, and my understanding or my appreciation of love received is in gifts. We need to feel the love. There's a certain way to be touched, held, and regarded behaviorally and emotionally. If we feel deprived, do I feel deprived? And trace back your life chain and find out where you were deprived in, because it may not be your relationship or your loneliness or your disconnect from God or your disconnect from the church or your spouse not giving you the love you need, or you don't love me enough, or you don't make me feel happy. It may be your life chain that you need to go ahead and follow through. Will help you, because early on you felt unloved and you just grew. Thank you, Gary Chapman, the 5 love languages. You may have gone through life with this void that really came from your belief that you were unloved, and you carry it now through multiple relationships, and you're never going to get anyone who can love you the way you want to be loved because you're already convinced that you're not. That's deep. Before we even had the vocabulary to describe it, we will be driven in our lives to find it. That drive can be so powerful. Do you know that's why people indulge in other religions and get involved in all these crazy, outlandish stuff that some of us will be like, can't they see something's wrong with that? Why can't they pick up that that's a cult? Why can't they pick up that that's a con artist? Why can't they pick up that this person doesn't love them? Because they have convinced themselves for so long that they have been unloved. What they have now received appears as love to them. They're going to risk every other choice because they have believed in their mind that this thing, this cult, this religion, this person, whatever it may be, actually loves them. And that drive can be so powerful as to dominate our thinking, our choices, our motivations throughout life. Some of your most critical choices in life may have resulted from your need for, your search for a love that, whether real or imagined, you felt was elusive. That's right, Pastor Cream. It's been known that's why a lot of people get in gangs, because they feel the love and what they just haven't felt in their families. And that's how they bait them. Good conversation, guys. All right, come on, let's go. Number 4, if we have some time on the end, I want to go back to these. So hopefully one of my scribes will make a note and remind me that I want to go back and talk about these in a little more depth. Please share your testimonies. Share your testimonies with me on survival. Share your testimonies with me on some choices you made that now you realize was motivated on security, your need to feel secure. Please share with me your motivating factors that cause you to make some choices because of your need to be loved or feel like you were loved. Even if it lasted for the first 3 months and then you were like, I really didn't like them anyway, because it was just your need to believe you were loved. And now we're going to deal with self-esteem, and we've got enough of this before we get ready to close for tonight. Blessings, Elder Terry Scott, sir. Thank you so much for all you do, for all the work that you do. Blessings to you, sir. Self-esteem. Once we have satisfied, going down the line, once we have satisfied our survival needs, have attained a basic sense of security and feel loved, we relate our decisions about life to self-esteem. Unfortunately, most people haven't gotten the foggiest idea of what self-esteem is all about because they've been chasing after other people's versions, that is, external sources of self-esteem, all their lives. For many, self-esteem or self-worth is too often measured as a function of what one accomplishes, accumulates, or extracts from the world in the form of titles, trophies, or acknowledgments. Too often, it can mean a particular car, house, dress size, golf score, or bank account. This craving for esteem, if it is measured by an external yardstick and or worldly stuff, can be elusive, fickle, and as addictive as any drug. And I know that's true. I know that to be true. Research with adolescents has shown that consistently boosting kids' esteem externally, such as with random just be positive praise or a particular title or position in school, is not a good idea. Children can end up as a bottomless pit, wanting more and more, even going so far as to commit illegal acts to gain it from their peers, all because the external never really hits the spot. And so they just keep trying to meet a need from the outside that can only be met from the inside. That was a mouthful. So by giving our children, starting out in an early age, by giving them external things to validate and esteem them, will actually cause them to end up as a bottomless pit, wanting more and more, even going so far as to commit illegal acts to gain it from their peers. Then we have children in our region. We just had 2 or 3 kids get jumped at the bus stop, stealing their Beats headphones from them because they believe when you have Beats, it's an esteem thing. You look like you have money, your family come from something, So we go around and commit illegal acts to gain it from their peers, all because the external never really hits the spot. And so they just keep trying to meet a need from the outside that can only be met from the inside. Boy, this needs to be talked about more. The more your internally defined self-esteem, write it down, internally defined self-esteem, internally defined self-esteem, the more your internally defined self-esteem is lacking, the more you are vulnerable to external influence. In short, if you aren't squared away with yourself, they can get to you from the outside. Oh boy, and they do. The world will pick on self-doubt like it is an open wound. As a result, you can find yourself making decisions driven by a need to build how you feel about yourself, but from all the wrong resources. Simply put, if you don't love, believe in, and accept yourself, you will try to find someone else to do it for you. Seeking that validation so desperately from someone other than yourself can have a huge effect on the choices you make. Well, I've given you all a lot of work to do tonight. 1, 2, 3. Tomorrow we'll finish the last 3. And tonight we made it up to 4. We handled 4 tonight. Tomorrow we'll finish the last 3. But you have work to do now. Now your work will be to look for the motivating factors. First, you got to find your 7 critical choices. What were 7 critical choices that I've made in my life that have defined things on where I am today? Good or bad? It's not all about horrible things, good or bad. But then, even for the good ones, we want to know what was the motivating factor in that choice. Is it really you, or was it motivated by something else? No matter how good it may have turned out, it doesn't mean that it's good for your life. It was meant for your life. You may be doing an 8 in that particular area, and God has anointed you, set up an economy there for you. He may have networking and favor and everything working right there for you, but you'll miss it because you stay in this one field because it's security to you. And you lived a very unstable life, and you don't want to continue in an unstable life. So you stay in security thing, or this thing, I get to go online and everybody loves me online. So I'm going to stay in this field here because it boosts my self-esteem. You're looking for things externally to give you something that can only be handled internally. Or you made this choice because I had to survive and it's the only thing left that I could do. And now we're at a place where we'll realize that you can make different choices, and we're actually going to. So write down your 7 critical choices that you feel you have made up until this point in your life, and then let's start digging for and finding the motivating factors behind them. And if they're off this list of 7, if it's off this list of 7 motivating factors, let me know. I want to hear from you and find out what was your motivating factor, why you made the choice that you made. So we're done for tonight. We're going to deal tomorrow with self-expression, intellectual fulfillment, and spiritual fulfillment. Please let me know how you're doing. It's good to see some of y'all that came on late. God bless you. Please watch the replay. Very good, Pastor D. I see you shouting out to our sister and baby girl in Maryland. I love you all. I pray that everything's going well, that we be safe in this snowstorm. Thank you for your time. Airtime is very, very, very expensive. At least my first marriage, if not both. Make your choices based on what God feels about them, not what other people feel about them. Very deep tonight. Someone else is Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Well, amen. Keep doing the work. You're very welcome. God bless you. Thank you as well. I'm doing the work along with y'all. And remember, I was sharing with someone today, do this work all year long. Don't stop at the end of this 30 days. We've got an archaeological dig that we're on, and we're trying to find some of the most expensive jewels in our lives that we will ever have access to, which is ourselves. So let's do the work to get to that place so that above all things, we can prosper and be in good health, even as our soul prospers. God bless you and good night. And we'll see you tomorrow. Please be safe during the storm tonight. God bless you. Bless everyone. Good night, YouTube.